What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the biggest nootropics channel on the web. Check us out on the web, livecortex.com, livecortex.com/blog, big blog for nootropics information. Like us on Facebook, please, facebook.com/Cortex Stacks. A couple powerful products support this broadcast. Here they are. Elite level nootropic products. All right, number one, we have a nootropic stack. It is called Cortex, exceptionally strong stack in the eyes of our users. We tried to build something for everything. So if you want powerful mood benefits, buy a bottle of Cortex. If you want focus, buy a bottle of Cortex. You want verbal fluency, buy a bottle of Cortex. You want motivation, buy a bottle of Cortex. You want mental energy, drive, productive drive, buy a bottle of Cortex. Right now, coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, gets you Cortex for $28 a bottle. Super cheap. Think about it. If you think about doing it, go to livecortex.com, buy a bottle right now. If you need my help personally in anything related to nootropics, we have a consulting service. It's a 40-minute call with me, 15 additional email correspondences. Basically, we just help people figure out a list of stacks that work well for them, saves them many years of experimentation on their own, and then we kind of set people on a nootropic schedule to get the best effects from nootropics. If you're new to nootropics, two options. You can either buy Smarter, Better, Faster, which is our digital book that teaches you everything, downloadable, has stacks in it, and teaches you how to cycle, and or the nootropic starter pack, which is Smarter, Better, Faster plus a bottle of our nootropic stack, Cortex. Get all that stuff at livecortex.com. And if you want more specials, just like crazy specials on product, if you're a frequent Cortex user, email Ron, R-O-N, at livecortex.com with your name and number, and Ron will call you with the specials that we have. We're doing that now. Ron is my brother, works for the company, and if you get a call from Ron, he's offering specials we won't be offering here, so take the specials. Okay, so I kind of want to just talk about 5 major principles of taking nootropics. We talk about situationally specific stuff. We talk about stacks here. We've been doing a lot of that kind of stuff, but generally kind of stepping back, unless you have a framework with which to take nootropics and you sort of follow these 5 principles, you don't really, you'll be treading water for a long time. That's what I find. And so it's like also looking at longer term taking nootropics, which is I think the goal for a lot of folks. In order to be taking nootropics long term for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you kind of have to take them a very particular way. So I want to run through the 5 major principles that over a decade and a little bit more that I've been taking nootropics, I've come to learn. And I think this is going to be helpful for a lot of you folks. Okay, number 1, take nootropics to optimize a particular system. So if your memory is lacking, as an example, and you're a real estate agent and you've got a real estate exam or something to this effect coming up, then you're going to want to focus mainly on the cholinergic system and mainly on memory. So in that case, you'd really be looking at oxiracetam, aniracetam, piracetam, or coliracetam, or Noopept. You'd be looking at memory-centric nootropic compounds. What people do is they go, oh, this nootropics thing, it's really cool. And listen, I understand that. I'm just going to take a bunch of everything and kind of see, what's going on. And that's cool for a 2 to 3 week experimentation process. But once you're past that kind of dabbling in a bunch of stuff period, you have to look at what your brain needs. This is kind of over a month period, and it could be on a daily kind of period. Today, my brain needs to be functional in the area of memory because I got to work on spreadsheets. Tomorrow, my brain needs to have a lot of endurance so that I can work on something for like the next 7 hours or something, and I just got to get a whole lot done. Taking nootropics for that particular case is where you want to be, and in that case, you take something for like modafinil. Okay, so taking nootropics to optimize a particular system of your brain, processing, verbal fluency, etc. That's like principle number 1 on an ongoing kind of capacity and an acute daily capacity. Number 2, take nootropics to induce residual benefits. There's a lot of nootropic compounds that just induce residual benefits. Depends on what you're trying to work on. As an example, if you want to promote longer term dopamine, good dopamine functionality, take iridine monophosphate, right? If you want to promote longer term memory and reparative functionality in your brain, for the brain to kind of constantly be repairing itself at a higher rate than it would ordinarily without nootropics, then take things that modify or increase the quantity of nerve growth factor, things like Noopept and lion's mane. If you want to stave off things that build up in your brain over time that, when you're 67, you might contribute to Alzheimer's. Great example of that would be a compound. It's really a collection of a bunch of different things to include heavy metals called lipofuscin. Then maybe you want to shoot for taking low-dose Alcar pretty daily, or at least 5 days a week, because that's been demonstrated to do that in rats, or something like centrophenoxine, which has also been demonstrated to remove lipofuscin from the brain. And there's a whole bunch of other things, antioxidants for the brain, ones that cross the blood-brain barrier, and particularly, the most prominent one that comes to mind is alpha-lipoic acid, okay? So taking nootropics to optimize the brain so that you have residual effects long-term. And you're gonna know when this happens, because after you take a particular nootropic for a certain period of time and then you stop taking it, you should still have not exactly the level of functioning you had when you were acutely taking the nootropic, but some degree of that function improved. A lot of you guys that listen to the podcast recognize that I took Noopep for a long time back in the day. Thereafter, I could remember and read everything. I could read stuff and remember everything that I read, whereas previously I had a really big problem with that. Number 3, this is going to, I maybe make people mad or something, or make people less interested in what I'm saying, but it's the truth. The goal in the end is to take less nootropics. Because think about it, side effects from nootropics come when you over-optimize a particular system, that's it. And by over-optimization, that isn't necessarily a good thing. You're just flooding the brain with neurotransmitters that you don't need. That is not something you want to do. What you want to do is work on systems carefully and strategically over time. And if you do that right, 5 years later or 10 years later, you'll need to take less uridine. You'll need to take less modafinil. You'll need to take less alpha GPC. In the beginning, for me, I was taking 200 to 400 milligrams of alpha GPC, really high doses of racetams. I was taking 250 milligrams of uridine monophosphate. My dose of modafinil was like 130. Now my dose on uridine is probably 50 to 100 milligrams. Sometimes I just take half of the Cortex stack and I'm like lit up. My dose of modafinil is 75 or so milligrams, so on and so on. My dose on Noopept actually lowered in the last year. It used to be 13 milligrams, now it's about 8, and I get the same effect, right? That's because I've been working on it surgically, and the goal is to eventually lead that point by taking nootropics surgically, which you can figure out how to do by watching all of our videos and reading Smarter, Better, Faster. Number 4, not all nootropics are acutely noticeable. Very important principle, because when people go into nootropics and they start taking them and they don't feel like they're on Adderall or something, they get discouraged and they start switching from that nootropic to another nootropic, and they really never gave that nootropic time to figure things out or to work correctly. In the end, a lot of nootropics will not be stimulant-like, will not give you a feel like maybe phenylpiracetam would. Phenylpiracetam gives you a feel, modafinil gives you a feel, Cortex stack gives you a feel. A lot of things will give you a feel, but some won't. Pramiracetam is a very good example for a lot of people. It is not so much of a feel that comes with it, same with piracetam. It is a functional benefit. So when you take those kind of nootropics, you really have to put yourself to the test. Get up in front of a camera and talk for a while, see how verbally fluent you are. Do some things that require heavy memory processing and see how good your memory works, right? Do some things that require a lot of mental endurance and a lot of mental energy, see where you're at. That's really the best way to understand that nootropics are just not acutely noticeable, not all of them. And if they're not acutely noticeable, doesn't mean they're not great. It means they're awesome. You just have to know what it's doing to your brain and put your brain to use in particular tasks so that you can see the functional benefit. Nootropics are not drugs. They're not illicit drugs. It's not coffee. It's not alcohol. It's not a buzz, right? They're made to improve performance in particular areas. That is number 4. Number 5, last one, pretty critically important principle of taking nootropics. Everyone has a sweet spot for every compound or every stack. Everybody does. Some compounds, some stacks, you're not going to respond to, no matter what you do. And that's okay. You have to shift to different systems. But for most folks, and for most nootropic compounds, you do have a sweet spot. And this becomes critically important when you're stacking a whole lot of things together. So if you're stacking ataracetam, triacetyluridine, CDP choline, Alcar, and a B complex together, your sweet spot is going to be different than other people. But you have to find your sweet spot for each one of those individual compounds as they relate to each other in that particular stack. And that takes experimentation. So your sweet spot might be 300 milligrams ataracetam, 200 milligrams of CDP choline, and 50 milligrams triacetyluridine, 75 milligrams CDP choline, 300 milligrams Alcar, and then a run-of-the-mill B complex. And maybe your B complex has to be a little more than the RDA of each B vitamin. I know it's hard to find, but you can do it by getting the bulk powder of each of those B vitamins, which is what I did to find my sweet spot many years ago. And every compound individually for a person, you have a sweet spot for that, and for certain situations, you've got a sweet spot for that particular thing. I don't sleep well, brain isn't working well, gram of oxiracetam, perfect sweet spot. At this point, I need to sit down, I need to read a bunch of scientific papers, I need to understand everything. 8 milligrams Noopept, 200 milligrams choline bitartrate. That is my new sweet spot. I really want to crank up memory, but I want to have energy at the same time. 200 milligrams phenylpiracetam, 5 milligrams PRL853, 200 milligrams choline bitartrate. It's just, I know my sweet spots at the current moment. Last major point, those sweet spots change. And they change over time based on your tolerance to nootropics, and they'll change over time based on how much you've optimized your brain with particular nootropics. So if you've been taking a particular racetam for 2-3 months, that sweet spot's probably going to change because you've optimized that system. With that racetam, you're allosterically modifying AMPA receptors in a way which doesn't incessantly or hardcore downregulate those AMPA receptors. So over time, you'll probably need less anoracetam, or the dose will change for whatever's going on. Sometimes whatever's going on in your life makes the dose change. You didn't sleep well, dose will change. Then when you did sleep well, something else is going on, you're tired, you've worked out, doses change. You need a lot more energy than you normally need. You've got a lot more to do, doses have to change. But generally, where you are now, again, it's a moving target, but it stays there for a bit. Everyone has a sweet spot for every compound, and everyone has a sweet spot for every stack. And your job is to experiment to find those sweet spots. And if they move, pinpoint where they are, then notate them, observe how long they last in that particular dose, rinse and repeat. Okay, so those are the 5 major principles. They come directly out of Smarter, Better, Faster. So Smarter, Better, Faster stacks, it's cycling, but it's also this kind of stuff. It's principles that allow you to fully understand how to surgically use nootropics, which is what we're about. So buy Smarter, Better, Faster at livecortex.com. The Cortex stack right now, remember guys, $28 using the coupon code 5, FIVE at livecortex.com. Powerful, pre-made nootropic stack. If you need help personally, we have a consulting service. It is a 40-minute call with me. 15 additional email correspondences. We help people hash this stuff out. Mostly it's just finding stacks that work for folks and then getting them on a schedule of taking those stacks over time. It is a very, very cool process. We save people 3 years and figure out what they would have done in 3 years in about 3 weeks. It is a very cool consulting service. And again, if you're new to nootropics, buy Smarter, Better, Faster, book that teaches you everything, or the Nootropic Starter Pack, which is Smarter, Better, Faster, plus a bottle of Cortex. And if you get a call from Ron from Cortex Labs, one of our guys, he will pitch you specials that we don't have here. So if Ron calls you and with a special, buy the special, because you're not going to get that special anywhere else. Take advantage of whatever Ron's offering, because Ron's just doing the best specials ever for our company, and they're really awesome. And if you want specials, better specials, if you're somebody who buys Cortex frequently, this is kind of for you. Email Ron at livecortex.com with your name and number, and he'll call you with the specials. And again, if he offers you something, take what Ron offers, because he's giving good specials. Okay, thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. My name is Ryan Michael Ballo. For 6 years, my sole mission has been to improve the performance of my brain. This is why I created Cortex. My mission was to build a nootropic stack that gave me extreme focus, powerful motivation, and a heightened cognitive state. And after years of experimentation and a comprehensive beta testing protocol, and putting together the most powerful nootropic compounds on the planet, I found what I was looking for.